Today's episode of the Willpower Podcast comes to you from a live coaching session. All right, Orit and Lori, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. It's
You're-
crazy.
Things are crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy onboarding an EA when you've never had an EA before. And
Yeah, I was going to ask about that anyway, so I'm glad you bring it up. So what's that like so far?
um, it's really good. It's really good. The working genius assessment is really a good tool. So we actually went over that today.
Did you
To,
you implement that on your own, I'm guessing?
that was from you guys from the Rockstar Summit.
Oh, okay, yeah. But we didn't like as a system put you in touch with the six working geniuses. You're just applying something from the summit because I'm learning from you. So again, so you did this. So how did that help you or not?
Yeah, so I had filled that out a long time ago, and she just filled it out. And so it was a great way if went through it together to talk about what our strengths were, how, what are the things that we are really important to us, and how do we function. And it's great because she's absolutely like sort of lockstep fits in with me in that I'm an inventor. And so I'm not a wonder. Like you're a wonder, I'm not a wonder.
I'm not.
Like,
I'm an inventor galvanizer.
oh, really?
Yeah. What are
So
you? What are you?
I have to pull it up. I'm an inventor,
Dancer,
enabler.
enabler. Oh, that makes sense. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I'm an inventor enabler, and she is a enabler tenacity.
Yes.
So we both are going to be like telling each other how much we love each other and how much we appreciate each other, which is great. But I'm also going to be like, I'm the person who's going to come up with the ideas, and then she's going to be like, I need all the details and
Yeah.
figure, right? So it was good because that's absolutely missing. Like I'm
Mhm.
not the detail, and I'm not a good like communicator. So she's going to be the one to ask me like all the questions and say, okay, all right, these are the things I need to be clear on before I go ahead and do the next pieces. So
Got it.
um yeah, so that's already like really good because it's better than somebody who just like takes off and then we're cleaning up messes. Um, so
And
yes.
that is great. It sounds like, yeah, I see the gap because if she's tenacity, she'll get the job done
Hmm.
as long as she's an A player, and I'm sure she is if we hired her. But the idea being that you're like there's a gap around process creation. So she might have to ask you questions about it, but she's not that person who's probably going to go like build the process, and you're not either. So like you have the ideas for the like here's what I would love to see. And then she's like, yeah, I can get that done. Just show me how. And you're like, oh, let's figure that out. So that's going to be the resistance point in the relationship is helping her understand what the steps are to get the thing done. But once you build it, very optimistic that she'll be able to run with it. So
Yeah,
that's exciting. So how long have you had her now?
this is day 3.
Okay, very early stages. How are you training her? Is she like just on a video all day, or is it just an hour a day, or not at all? Like, what does that look like?
So she's with Serendipit 4 hours out of the day doing marketing training right now.
That's
And
kind of
then
nice.
yeah, that's really great. She's meeting like she met with me this morning for an hour. She met in the morning and the afternoon with me yesterday. So we're kind of doing it on an as needed basis. So like I'm giving her something, like she's got a task list, and
Yeah.
we also have a lot of like we have email communication, we have Slack communication. She's also um getting access to my emails. That hasn't happened yet. So
Mm.
we're working on making sure he's access to all these things, but it's a little bit of like, hey, here's the thing, now go run with it. And then like she gives me an end of day report, and um yeah, it's great. We were in the middle of some training 2 days ago, and she said, Arit, because she's already on my calendar. She's like, Arit, you have a meeting right now. And I was like, ah! I like had to
Mhm.
jump off and
That's great. That's a good sign that she's keeping attention to detail, especially in her first few days. That's a
yeah.
really good sign that she's keeping her head together around that. So congratulations on that piece of it. I am as someone who's piloting this program, I'm keeping very close tabs on you in that regard. So don't feel like you can't reach out to me at any point as well. I'm very confident in our ability to get people. I'm very confident in Serendipit. Putting things together is going to be amazing. And I'm very mindful of pilots, as you know. Like to me, this is
Yeah.
why I think if I've had success, it's been attributed to a couple of factors, one of them being careful attention to pilot programs. And when this takes off, then there'll be a lot of really cool value adds for everybody else. But you're in that stage of like figuring it out. So don't feel like you can't polo me or like text me or call me and be like, "Hey, this is good, but it could be better," or "I got it stuck." Like let's brainstorm together because you're helping me when you do.
Okay. And I will. I think that I already have some thoughts. But I think what will be good is to see kind of what's the outcome of the week
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
once she's done with all the training. And I've kind of asked her, I've been like, how is it going? And she's saying there's a lot of information. So we'll see.
Yeah, the Serendipit training is pretty robust. I went through a big chunk of it, so I'm excited to see what that goes, how that goes.
Cool.
Joe, aren't you doing something with Serendipit as well? You're muted, my friend.
My mic off. Okay, now you can hear me. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I met Alexis back in the conference in March, and yeah, finally circling around to moving forward with that. So we're kind of in the early stage,
Awesome.
so we don't, yeah, but definitely looking forward to that.
Are you hiring a VA to like take through the vamped program, or are you just hiring them for marketing?
The former, I believe, yeah, is the plan to take through her thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. That's actually what I'm doing like right now.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know how it goes. If you're cool with it, I'd like to pick your brain on that end of it because
Yeah.
although you're not going through us for a VA, I would really
Right.
like to hear how it goes in the
I'll
VAMP program.
totally let you
We're
know.
piling that information. Again, very confident. You guys are my innermost peeps. So it's really useful to work together. And I'm not worried about having problems. I just know that there will be.
Yeah,
Like
no,
there's
I'm
going
happy to
to be
share.
issues and it's like I want to work through those together so that it's easier for you guys and so we learn together and then we can roll it out to other people. So yeah, that's
Cool.
awesome, man. Well, how have you been, Joe? It's been a minute.
Yeah, my God, it's been like months, hasn't it? Yeah, well, it's been challenging. I lost three PTs in like 2 months, so
Yeah,
I'm in a rebuilding plan, and I that didn't blindside me. Like they all kind of articulated that there would be reasons they would be leaving. Unfortunately, it all happened in a short period of time. So
that really sucks.
yeah, it's a challenge for sure, but it's also kind of like yeah, because it's like three or four employee PTs, but it also it's probably an opportunity to say, okay, how do we retool? How do we what really does the future look like, and what's the best way to do it? This area is just incredibly difficult. I mean, I even had the local hospital come in and I have contacts with their referral people and they're like, yeah, there's no PTs down here. We can't get PTs. Expect more referrals. It's just it's like a really, really hard place to recruit. So anyway, I'm exploring. I just got off the phone with a PT that I'm probably going to hire remote. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so I'm going to get her doing remote, at least for evals and progresses, maybe follow up. So, again, I just think in this market, I got to really change the way I'm looking at things, as well as, conventional in person. Yes, I definitely want to hire more, actual live PTs in the building. But so yeah, it's been an interesting several months, but yeah,
Hmm.
but
Awesome. Well, I'm sorry to hear that happen. Grateful that you're on the call. I'll tell you guys, I had some really interesting trainings this week just to kind of kick things off a little bit because it's relative to recruiting and PTs, and that's the main point of our time together. I've been very, very honored to be selected to work with Alex Hormozi, if anyone knows who that is. By the way, his new book that just came out 2 weeks ago, because of my relationship with him, I can get unlimited. Well, there's a 4,000 copy limit, but I can give as many copies as away if you guys are just willing to play shipping and handling on it. You want it? I'll send you guys a link. This is the book. It's called $100 million. It's 100 million $100 million money models, and it's phenomenal. I've structured Virtual Rockstar completely based on his other two books, the $100 million offer and leads. The concept of this one is to build an offer so good that people feel stupid saying no. And this one's how to build and grow your audience. We have 10x our growth year over year using these policies, where every coach has a different strength. Where Alex is super strong is he's really good at all the front end stuff, marketing, sales. He's got a lot, he's got lots, all the successful people kind of know a lot about everything, but they all have like a niche. His whole thing is marketing and sales. And yesterday I was talking with him on Sunday, and then yesterday I was in a 4-hour training with kind of this inner circle. And it was crazy because he was talking about there's always I'm going to cover a couple of concepts with you guys just because I think it's so valuable. One of them is this concept of constraint. In all of our companies, there's always one constraint that matters more than anything else. We use this term priority incorrectly. What we say is our priorities, plural, but the Greek origin of priority is one focus. So this is not just Alex Hormozi. I've seen this recently with Elon Musk, and there was, Mr. Wonderful from the Shark Tank was talking about Steve Jobs. He said the best, most successful leaders, there's one really common trait that they all have, which is that they focus on the single most important constraint of their business as their primary and, as much as possible, their only focus. And so we feel like we're spinning so many plates because there's different hats that we wear. But at any given time, there's only one thing that matters. There's the most. And the way that we can be successful is that if we can focus our energy and leverage, I'll talk about leverage in a second, but when we can leverage against that constraint, that relieving that constraint is the quickest way to grow because it frees up a number of other lesser important constraints. So this concept of multiplicity, our ability to focus on the single most important constraint and using leverage to be able to free that up, is how we break through and grow exponentially. And, one big concept too is that we don't have to use this concept to be wealthy. We can use lots of lesser successful actions and still become wealthy and successful. There's so many different ways up the mountain, but the path that has the greatest results is this concept of singular constraint. Leverage is using people, knowledge, and tools like AI or whatever to help alleviate that constraint. So a perfect example for all of you is that for many of you, at least, your primary constraint is probably a manpower constraint of recruiting, right? If you had unlimited PTs on a bench waiting to join your practice, would that be the most useful thing for you than anything else? I don't know. It may not be the case for all of you, but at least you're in this room because you consider it to be one of the top issues, if not the issue in your company. So this concept of leveraging our resources to remove that constraint really spoke to me. I've heard it tons of times before. Mr. Wonderful said it like this, that Steve Jobs was really good at focusing on the one thing that mattered most and everything else was noise. He says the only person who does that perfectly is Elon Musk because of his autism. He can only hyper focus on one thing at a time. So he knows what that constraint is. And that's why you see these guys and girls with multiple billion-dollar companies. And by the way, that's because that's all they have. But even for us in our companies, what's that one constraint? Just something to think about. I'm learning the process from Alex directly on how to research another company and determine that constraint for them. I'm actually being trained on that, which is really cool because obviously he's teaching me so that I can do it for myself. But once I can do it for my companies, I'll be able to help others with this as well. Because it's not always clear what that main constraint is. Sometimes the loudest problem in our ear feels like it's the biggest constraint, but it's not always the biggest constraint is truly the one that by so resolving will have the greatest impact across your company. And so I share all this. That's part of what I wanted to share. The second part of wanting to share was where Alex, again, in acquisition.com, I think is top of any industry is marketing and sales. He talked yesterday for a full hour about how manpower constraints, recruiting, is just marketing and sales. And he went through the process of what marketing and sales looks like. And it's identical for getting clients as it is for us to get team members. And here's where it's really funny. And I want you guys to hear this. He said, he goes, he has worked with hundreds of industries. He is brilliant to work with all these industries. And he works with companies sub 1 million all the way up to like hundreds of millions. And so he was saying the hardest example he has ever seen, and I hesitate on saying this because I feel like it's going to feed that voice in our head that limits us. But he said the most difficult situation he's ever seen was a physical therapist trying to hire a PT. Guys, like he doesn't even think of me as a PT. He doesn't even know that I am a PT. He just knows as me as this virtual assistant company owner guy. There was no other PTs in that room. And he's like, and he gave the example of this woman and he's like, man, he's like, that is just craziness. He's like, but he talked about how he helped her solve it though. And so I think there's something to be said about that. So how did he help her? And I just wanted to share this one tactic. It may not be a solution for you guys, but it did expand. It was totally new for me. Not totally. It was an expansion on something that I've been teaching for a while in a way that I'd never thought of. So what he did was he did an analysis of what the revenue producing possibility of a physical therapist was. And he said, okay, so one full-time physical therapist can produce X number of dollars, right? And that's going to be a little bit different for all of us. All of us are going to have a physical therapist revenue result, but we should figure that out. And maybe you already have, but like ultimately, if they see X number of visits per week, and we should track what they're currently doing, and then we see how much revenue they bring in per year, and then we subtract their salary from that. That gives us something called the gross margin. It's not an actual margin, but it's a general margin of like what they bring in versus what they cost, right? And you want to include their benefits into that as well. So you look at that number, and then what he'll typically do is use that number as his budget to find a physical therapist. And so what he did with this lady, and I thought this was pretty amazing, is that, in the case of this lady, she had a couple of rock stars on the team. And you've heard, we all talk about how we should get our people to help and stuff. And then you guys have heard me talk about referral bonuses where it's like, yeah, let's do $2,000, but let's also make it a trip to like Hawaii instead of just giving them the money. What he did is he went to the team and said, okay, so that amount is like $25,000. He said, so that delta between what they made and what they spent was like $25,000. And he went to the team and he said, hey team, I'm going to give you $25,000 if you find somebody. $25,000. That the bonus was 25 grand. And I was like, there's no way that's doable. Like in my mind, I'm like, that's insanity, right? But then he structured it to where they got a chunk at close. And there's like, it was paid out over the life cycle of the new therapist. And it solved her problems. Just this one thing. And I'm very mindful of any silver bullet, but his thought process around it is really the main point here, is that we should be aware of what the main constraint of our business is. And before I get trained, let's just do the best we can on determining what that constraint is. And if it's recruiting, let's not be afraid of like doing something a little bit radical there. What I do love about it is that, again, that number may not be 25 grand for you guys. That might be a different number. But what I loved about it was that it was different. It incentivized an existing team member, which created retention, right? Like you're bonusing the therapist to do something that actually grows the business more than anything else they could possibly do outside of hitting a bare minimum, production standard. Like above and beyond is bring someone else into the team. Wouldn't you agree? And then you're incentivizing that person for income, you're not paying some person hasn't proven themselves. You're paying the person who has. and that person feels rewarded. So you're retaining talent, which is recruiting insurance. Retention is recruiting insurance. And then they're out there like evangelizing your business in a way that is so passionate that it produces more momentum. And so when that person comes on, they're coming on for the right reasons. They're not coming on like the new hire's not coming on for this really crazy bonus, and they're not all about the money. They're just being marketed to better by someone who's proven themselves. And then this person shows up, and then they're like, so what happens to the culture? It takes a bump up. So I haven't done this myself, but I will say I've put a lot of money into acquisition.com, a ton of money to Alex. It's only come back 10x for me. And he hasn't done something to me that has ever not been a successful action. So for him to have had the successful action with the physical therapist company really made me see the potential of like just me even seeing things differently in the recruiting space and what's possible. Because at the end of the day, as long as we're not losing money, and that's one of his things, you can go offer $100,000 referral bonus and then be out of business. So you have to measure it against what your company is able to do. But yeah, man, like from a cash flow perspective, 25,000 is a lot, but you pay a chunk at that when that person starts, and then over time that person gets that 25 grand. Well, while that money's going out to the therapist, the new therapist is making more money for us to pay for the bonus. And I just loved it. Orit.
So I just want to make sure I've got the numbers right. I don't think this is too crazy an idea. I actually think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So let's assume. So I have some real numbers, right? I have a PT who is generating $280,000 in a year. Their salary was 81 something, not including benefits. So maybe it's closer to, I don't know,
100, 105, something like that.
with benefits. And benefits
Hmm.
includes, I'm assuming, PTO
Yeah.
and all of that. Okay. So that means it's 280 minus 105 is
Let's do some real numbers. Let's actually walk through this together. Let's take this as a workshop for just 5 minutes and walk through it together so that we can really identify what these numbers could mean.
because I'd
So
rather spend this money than Indeed.
heck yeah, man.
All
Like
right.
that if every dime, if it's a successful action, every dime would go towards solving the problem and solving a future problem, which is the other person leaving, which is retention, right? Like
Right.
it's called a double triple dip. You're involving in when you're investing in the right constraint, usually it solves other constraints in parallel and allows you to scale. So let's just play with numbers. These don't have to be your exact numbers, but 80,000 might be a fair number to start. With benefits, let's just call it an even 100K. So that's how much you're paying. Let's just say that in general, we're paying a therapist about $100,000 a year with benefits. And then this is where it's going to vary greatly state by state. So what's your average reimbursement per visit or eat?
We're at 135.
You get paid $135 a visit? Guys, I wanted to say I've officially decided I'm moving to Washington and I'm starting a PT
And we're
practice.
not the biggest, right? Because Alaska's bigger. Alaska gets more.
Oh,
Oregon gets more.
oh
Yeah.
man. That's
But
well,
so
yeah.
we've dropped lowest paying insurances.
You've been
Um,
very courageous.
we're 45 minutes. They're billing 4 to 5 units a visit, sometimes 3, but the next drop will be Medicare. So we're working on getting slowly out of network. But yeah, but yes, we're at 135 working with timber and just billing appropriately in the clinic. So yeah.
Love it. Let's go off of your numbers. Everyone else kind of just follow through on your own side. So $135 a visit. And then what would you say a team physical therapist is going to see on average per week? Not expected. What do you think they're actually seeing per week?
Yeah, so they're actually seeing, so they can see 50, they're actually seeing probably 40. So we're at like 80 to 85% productivity. So let's go low and say 80%.
Okay.
So they can see 50 times 0.8. 50 times 0.8 is 40 visits. Let's say 40 visits.
Okay, perfect. So 40 visits, and then you see $135 a visit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's do the math on that. And we're not gonna include vacations on this just because we've already kind of considered that on the salary side. But 40, uh, so 40 per week times 52 weeks is 2,080 visits per year times 135. So they are revenue producing 280,800 dollars per year. So I think I misspoke earlier. I said that the delta was the budget. It's not a budget, it's a percentage of that budget. So for example, your gross profit off of one therapist is $180,000. Do you guys, please do not feel like this is an insult if you guys already know the answer, but I really, if you don't know the answer, please let me know. Do you guys know what gross profit is compared to profit?
Is it just the straight revenue?
So yeah, gross profit. So profit is your income after expenses. So we think of like net profit as profit. And so your net margin is the percentage of your total income after expenses divided by your excuse me, it's your total income divided by your total expenses, right? So you get that percentage. So when it comes to your gross profit, you're looking at your total income as a company minus your main, for in our case it would be your people. So like same with me. So for my gross profit for virtual rockstar is my total income minus the cost of my VAs and my team. I still have other expenses, but that's kind of it's like a really like cut and dry easy way to see after your main expense what your profit is. So in your case it's 1,180 $880,800. And then we want to take a percentage of that. And I don't remember the exact percentage. I can look that up on the video because I got it recorded. But I mean, 10% of that is 19,000
Right.
almost. I think it was 10%. I think the margin that he gave was 10%. So even if we did 15%, that would take you about 25,000. And that must be what it is. It's somewhere in that range. I think the therapist, he didn't walk through the numbers, but the therapist he was referring to, I know it was a 10% number he used, and it was closer to 25,000. So that their therapist was probably seeing above 50 visits a week or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So yeah, just think about the possibilities of that. I mean, it's one of those where like, again, he didn't break down the exact way he did it, and I can find out when I see him in September, but I'm pretty sure it was like 50% up front at close. You know, at 90 days, it's another 50% of the remaining. And then at a year, the rest of the 50%, or even I think it was 6 months maybe. So in that person's first go, they're getting the money. And just like this idea of like 20 grand versus going to Indeed or just something to think about.
Cool.
Yeah. Joe, thoughts on that?
Sorry, I had to multitask. Sorry, I muted you. Yeah, well, as we were talking, I was thinking through that. I mean, it's a great idea. However, isn't there an error in logic here? Like, I mean, you have to think of, okay, if my therapists bring in roughly 20,000 a month, I pay them roughly 9,000 with benefits a month. That leaves $11,000. But out of that $11,000, you would have to really look at that. You would have to, once you really, oh no, maybe that's where I'm here. Okay, I was going to look at that as, well, what's my actual, net profit? What's my actual profit? That'd be only 20% of that for me. So,
Yeah.
there's not a lot left there. But I guess it does get confusing with the logic, because it's like, okay, you're taking that 11, but you're turning it back into an expense to pay the bonus. But then once that bonus is paid out, you're kind of in the black. So I mean, I guess no, that totally does make sense to me. Although if you look at it that way, you're kind of sacrificing the first couple months of, true net profit if you look at that. But yeah, after a couple months, then if that bonus obligation's paid off, you're actually then, you know, doing that. So I don't know if I made any sense whatsoever, but
No, you did. Here's a
yeah,
couple things that you said that I think we need to hit upon. Number one, the thought that you got a little like in the weeds on is a really good point, which is that you still have to be profitable. If your company is currently losing money, net profit is zero or negative. This
yeah,
isn't a good tactic. This isn't. Like, unless you have some sort of reserve, because at the end of the day, like this whole idea of using gross profit to help measure this, there's an assumption that you have some baseline profitability there. And that's another constraint. That's a different constraint. Going back to the one
yeah,
constraint, then it's like, well, no, it's not more people, it's something else. That's more of an administrative piece. Maybe we need to drop our lowest paying insurance. Maybe we're paying one person too much. Like there's all these things. But when we're talking about just this being the main constraint, there's obviously going to be some profitability. So to your point, yes. And that's why I think from a cash, there's two things involved here. The other thing you said I want to highlight is anytime we make a change in our business, there is an estimated impact on our income. So even from a recruiting perspective, there is a dip, and you can estimate that between 15 and 20% of your general income as you invest in these elements. You guys have been so much in the weeds of like subsidizing that with extra hours that you don't really see it as that because your margins are staying pretty flat. But if we're completely outside of the business and we're just investing, when we bring in a therapist, there's additional expenses, there's a ramp up period, there's a 15 to 20% dip there, at least in that sector of income. So again, those are two, I just want to validate those 2 points. But the difference being is that if this works, having the speed of being able to hire as needed, there's a pivot point when we have enough people and then we're hiring for growth or to free us up versus survive. When we're hiring to survive, it's a very different experience than when we're hiring for expansion or to be freed up because there's enough profit, there's enough redundancy. So that's the pivot point. Tipping point is what I'm trying to say. That's the tipping point is when we have enough people and enough profits to where these little hires, this little dip occur, they're not even felt because there's momentum. So yeah, I think this will be an interesting idea for you guys to play in. It was brand new. I just learned it yesterday. And I just thought, man, that back in the day, yeah, for sure I would have done that. I would have loved an opportunity to give 20 grand to an existing rock star who, frankly, I'm looking for ways to incentivize them anyway. Why not incentivize them on solving my main constraint as a company? Mind blown. Haven't seen it done in PT directly, but maybe one of you guys will do it for us.
Hey, Will, um, question on that. Are you saying that they're paying that out in a year or over
I think
longer?
Alex, I know what Alex said. I disagreed with it that he did it within the first 90 days. And I was like,
Because
let's make it 6 months.
well, because if you have someone that leaves and you just paid all that out, unless
Yeah.
then I could see that not if you're paying 20,000, if we're doing like over 3 years or 5 years,
Yeah.
then I could see that. But I mean, and we had someone leave unexpectedly at 8 months. You pay that out. That's gonna be, I don't know how many times you can keep paying that out. If
Yeah, that's an
not that
interesting
you're
thought.
hiring
There's
for
there's some
people to
assumptions
leave,
there.
but
There's some
yeah.
assumptions there that we're going to address. Ari, I think, was already on that mindset. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my as you're saying that, Christy, I'm thinking that I would handle it the same way that I handle paying. I have unlimited Con Ed, but if somebody wants a big Con Ed course, like a $5,000, certification course, then I'm saying, well, then this is in agreement with you staying for 2 years. Otherwise, you have to pay me that, it gets prorated back to me. So I would kind of do the
Mhm.
same thing. I would look at it as, hey, here's a $20,000. I'm going to do a $20,000 bonus to whoever brings in the next PT that stays with us for at least 2 years and pay you out. So you get 10,000 the first year, 10,000 the second year, as long as they've stayed for 2 years. So it's a $10,000 bump to their base salary over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And I think I would do probably something like that. Like I'd say, okay, you're going to get a $20,000 bonus. they're going to stay for 2 years at least. You're going to make your money no matter what in that time period. Or more than that, right? Maybe it's $30,000, but you're going to pay it out over 2 years and that other person has to stay for 2 years.
Another thought too, Christy, on this is, thank you, Ari. Another thought too is that I think what we're forgetting is that we're changing how we're recruiting so dramatically that we're applying an old problem to a new circumstance. So what I mean by that is what we're used to doing is trying the best to find the most aligned people the best we can, but we end up kind of going to like money or circumstance to get that done. Not saying that's how we usually do it, but it is an influence for us. And so as a result of that, you all have PTSD on people jumping on and leaving. So it's hard not to make the new thing look like the old thing when it has the same name called physical therapist. But watch this. There are two major differences that make this a completely separate opportunity that I, again, would just recommend a pilot for before we just launch as like our new official way of doing business. And I love the idea of doing that. It's like, hey, the first person, I'm piloting this. The first and only person who brings me a new person to hire that matches our values is getting 20 grand. Like, again, it's just very exciting, very easy to promote. But here are the two differences. The first is that you have hopefully a much better fit because it's coming from a rock star. You are circumventing the main reason we haven't been successful outside of scarcity of PTs is that how do we find the best aligned? Well, again, the only way this program works is if you have people that you would like to clone. If you have people you'd like to clone, this, I believe, is the primary, and it's your main constraint. I believe this pilot is the single most important thing to consider right now because you're having them do the next best thing from cloning themselves, which is aggressively go to their industry. And they're going to pick people they want to work with who already know, like, and trust them. Right? Which it builds in connection and retention automatically. Right? So you have that. The second component is speed. That's what we're solving for in this case, hopefully. So here's a better way of asking it. Christy, if you piloted this program and within 3 weeks you found someone that you loved in 3 weeks, would that outweigh some of the possibility of them leaving in 8 months?
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely. I
Yeah.
think you'd still have to prorate it, but yeah.
I would be careful on prorating it. Guys, I think
Because we do that on the sign-on.
I think that's a scarcity mindset. I'm just going to call it out. I think if you delay the bonus too long, it's not going to feel like the bonus.
Well,
So
not like the whole bonus, but you give a portion.
I think my opinion would be 50%
Yeah.
upfront, and then half of that at 90 days and half of that at 6 months. I think within the 6-month period, I think it still connects.
Yeah, no, I see that. I completely see the shift, and you're right because we're all focused on and coming from this place of fear and PTSD, and I completely see that, and I understand, and I'm like, yes, I can see that you'd have to pay it out fairly quickly because that keeps the excitement piece also going for the person who's just done that work versus I can see how if I were to pay that out over a couple of years, they're going to forget.
Yeah, it won't. And what they're gonna, because they think, remember, your PTs, no matter how scarcity we get, they're worse.
Yeah.
So a PT is like that's why no one in physical therapy wants to be paid off of revenue, even though we could all make a lot more money together. Is that PTs feel like a salary is safe. So it's like, no, I'd rather have a really high salary and then not work very hard versus be incentivized. So like if we say 10,000 up front and 10,000 in 2 years, they're going to hear 10,000 now. Maybe 2000, maybe there's more later versus 10,000. Like, remember, our goal is to create something so exciting that it shifts the needle. And I wouldn't do more than one pilot. I mean, I wouldn't do more than one pilot, but my word, I think what we're forgetting to is this thing called cash flow. When we have cash flow, like, again, speed is where, if this doesn't change speed, it's not worth it. And again, this might be a horrible concept for you individually if that's not the main constraint for you. But if it's your main constraint, and you have enough funds to pilot the idea, even if it didn't work, I would say this is less expensive than a lot of other things you could try, but it goes back to cash flow and speed. If we can solve the speed, let's say we get someone, if it takes us normally 6 months to hire someone and we get them in 2 months, and they are someone that is like a friend of someone we love, the probability, not the guaranteed, but the probability of them being a better fit is super high. But more important than that is that I don't think you're calculating the lost revenue of having an extra therapist for those additional 4 months that you didn't have a therapist. Think of it like that. Yeah, it takes, let's say this person comes on and guess what? They're average. They're not as big of a rock star as that person, but let's say they're average and they take a month to get to full capacity. So it's 3 months from the time that you start this pilot before this person is hitting full production. And then they're hitting production for 3 months. We are not calculating the lost revenue of those 3 months. How much is that? Let's look at it. Let's look at it together. So let's go back to that analogy in Orit's case.
$4,000 in profit.
How much?
Oh, sorry. I'm not muted. Well, yeah, I was flipping around in my head as you were doing that. Like for me, it's really simple math. If each PT brings about 20 a month, my margin's about 20, that's $4,000 that I actually have in profit. So in that case, you could throw that all back into this bonus program. And then in my case, I'd break even in 5 months, if you paid it out over 5 months. So like, that's to me, the super simple math way to look at this.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's fine, right? I mean, sure, in a sense, you would literally be breaking even on that PT for that first 5 months. However, after that, then you're enjoying the full profit to your bottom line. So, I mean, I think you could almost bust it down that simple or do a hybrid and say, yeah, maybe we stretch it out over 6 or 8. Maybe that's not too long, like 2 years. So yeah, I mean, but it's hard to swallow like, oh, I'm not making any additional profit for 5 months off this PT, but that's how I guess most people's number would roughly work out unless you're hitting 35% margins or something, which I think is hard to sustain in our business, but maybe I'm just a loser there, but I don't know.
No. You're great. Don't say that. I just think, look, at the end of the day, I want to go back to the original calculation here because what you're saying is great. We find ourselves kind of drifting into this space of like, let's spread it out. Let's keep it concise. Because again, here's the thing I want you to look at. If the pilot works, and again, this is the big if you incentivize and it increases cash flow and speed, we are going to make up the $20,000 immediately. Not immediately, I should say, but within a 6-month period, within that same 6-month period. So I did the math for 12 weeks, 40 visits a week for Orit at $135 a visit. Here's how much gross income she would be bringing in: $64,800. That new therapist in those 3 months, if it takes you normally 6 months to hire a new therapist, and this new program shortens it by 3 months. And again, I'm guessing that's being conservative. I'm guessing it takes you more than 6 months to fill a position. But if it's 6 months and you bring it down to 3 months, that's $64,800 of gross income. You are still paying that therapist. So what is that $100,000 for those three? Let's say with benefits and everything, it's $100,000. Well, that's $8,800 a month, 8, 16, 24. Let's say 26 just to be even, or just to be for quick math. You are bringing in gross profit $38,800. I guarantee that's actually closer per individual that you're hiring. That's closer to your actual profit per person because all your current team members are absorbing all of your normal other expenses, like the front desk. So like,
right. It's just another expense. So you're right. No, the way I'm thinking about it is wrong. It's just simply another expense. So you would actually make that up in 2 months in my model because
in 2 months,
I would get 22 more in gross. And you're right. You just throw that. That's just a straight expense. And that you're just washing that expense. And then essentially I would do that in less than, like I would do that in about 7 weeks. It would technically like your gross that you're just throwing back into an expense by paying the bonus would be your wash point. And from there, you're back to normal. So yeah, I was totally looking at it wrong. I think if that makes any sense.
No, what's great about
it's based on gross. You got to look at it as gross. Yeah.
We're not calculating. This is one of the things that we do when we're starting to think proactively is we start calculating the cost of missed opportunity. When we start calculating the cost of missed opportunity,
you never have the 11,000 a month to play with. So all you're doing is putting that right back into the bonus because you got the PT. So the way I was looking at it is completely wrong. No, I get you now. You got to look at it as gross. If you're bringing in another 20 minus their salary, that number is your gross that you would have never had. So why not throw it back to the bonus person and you're break even in less than 2 months? Most practices would be break even in less than 2 months, or my guess would with her reimbursement is probably much higher margins. So she'd break even in about five weeks. No, come on. If I was at 135, I'd be rocking a solid 35% margin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not, and I'm perfectly happy to share my
But either way,
numbers.
you're
But
probably
yeah,
still 2 months break even would be my guess. Like most practices would be 2 months break even on this
all
because
of I
you
would,
should think of it in gross. It's all about gross.
it is so powerful because a couple
Yep.
of things. Number
It's simple
one,
now.
no one else is thinking this way.
No,
And you
it's
guys
gross.
all
Yep.
understand why, because it feels like another tactic versus a complete mindset shift. When we start calculating the cost of missed opportunity, we start expanding our understanding of what we can invest in. I feel like sharing some personal stories with you guys, but I'm hesitant because I think it's going to make you think I'm crazy because it's in the same vein. But I will tell you that's why we're growing so fast at Virtual Rockstar is because gratefully I'm around people. I make sure I'm around people who challenge the way I think because my tendency is to go into scarcity mindset. It's a normal instinctive protective deep brain instinct is to say, well, what's the minimum? What can I expect as a minimum? We don't think, what is the loss of me achieving more than average because I am more than average? What's that delta for me expecting minimum versus what I know I probably could? So as you guys are out there piloting this idea, first of all, no one's thinking of it. So it's great. And it's very customized to you. If everyone in the industry started doing this, I guess it would eventually cause a problem with this new approach. But I mean, we're far from that. Number two, here's the thing I want you guys to really see about this is that you are getting an opportunity to incentivize one of your main rock stars to stay. Like they're all talking about how they can't make money. Well, with low reimbursement, what can you do? You go find another rock star and I'll increase your salary by 30 to 40% for that year in that same year. Oh, I think they can find all sorts of creative ways that they'll just, I mean, we could have team meetings like, guys, this new program's been great. We're installing it permanently in our practice. We are going to pay you $20,000 for every PT that you guys find. That's how we found Sharon. Sharon, how you like it here? I love it. Yeah, Sharon loves it. Sharon, this has been so great. We want you to make $20,000 this next year above your salary. The industry is thinking differently than us. We think in abundance, and we want the abundance to go to you guys. So as you guys solve our primary problem, which is finding great rock stars, because there's just not that many PTs relative to companies out there, we're going to do it differently. Instead of investing in Rockstar Recruiter, instead of investing in Indeed, we're going to invest in you because you deserve it. We just need your help. So let's do a brainstorm strategy. Hey, Mike, how did you find Sharon? Oh, I went through my network and da-da-da. Could you teach a masterclass next Wednesday? Absolutely. By the way, if all four of you guys find rock stars, we're going to pay you all $20,000. And you could, because now you have the cash flow analysis to show you how you can and what that's going to look like. And then you start solving other problems, which are so fun. Okay, well, we're going to hit capacity here pretty soon. What are we going to do when we hit capacity? We're running a 30% margin now. So, who here wants to be a leader? Guys, I met with a guy. I had lunch and dinner and went to a game with one of my clients here in Arizona who works with Virtual Rockstar. They're on their like 15th hire. They have this guy is expanding like crazy in the peds space, which from a profit perspective makes outpatient adult ortho look like a gold mine. Peds one-on-one for an hour. He is opening up his teens of locations and this is how he operates. Everything he does, he doesn't do this exact program, but everything he does for expansion is reinvesting into his people. He doesn't open a location until he helps identify people within his company who are born to be leaders, who want it more than anything. And then he's over time built the playbooks. You get to a certain tipping point where like expansion is easy. My easiest location, the easiest thing I've ever done in my PT business was open my fourth location. That was the easiest thing I'd ever done. I had the policies, I had the products, I had the area, we had the person. It was all internal. I just approved what the leadership team was doing. And I remember 1 month later going, I don't even remember. I can't believe we opened a clinic a month ago and it's already profitable. And they're all happy. This is how so I just want you to realize, like, I feel sometimes like A, we think it's always like this for everyone, or B, it's only those of us who think that we're losers. like other people are greater than us. They're not greater than us. They've just done a little bit differently. Think a little bit differently and done a little of these things that eventually caught momentum. Once they catch momentum, we all look like geniuses, Joe.
Yeah, can I just, because now I get it. Gross, this is a no-brainer. This is less than 2 months break even. So I didn't take notes. Can you tell me what is exactly advised? The parameters are they
Yeah.
do have to stay for some period of time, correct?
Can I just, like, for my benefit and for this recording, kind of step through it like step by step?
Yeah, because I really want to understand like exactly what the details are because I'm on board now. I get it. Yeah.
So again, we're piloting this.
Yeah, but this is a suggestion.
If this program solves all of your recruiting, we're going to do some fun things with this, and we'll change our discussions into like how to grow and expand. We won't even talk about this anymore. I'd love it if like this was the silver bullet. I'm mindful that there's other components to recruiting, but this could be a real big boost for us. So step one is to go through your metrics and determine how much an employee makes for you per year in terms of income, gross income, total. You multiply their actual visits seen per week times the number of actual reimbursements per visit you get. So for most people, that's between 70 and 130, right? So $130 per visit. So once you get that number, then you want to add about 15% for benefits. For most of us, it's going to be somewhere around the 6-figure range. That total, I'm sorry, I screwed things up.
Yeah, not add yet.
I jumped steps. So I'm back to step one. You're still figuring out what their income is. So you get that number. So you multiply that your average reimbursement per visit times the actual number of visits seen per year. That's your gross income. Now we're step two. Sorry, that's what I jumped to. Now we're going to talk about how much they cost you per year. That's their salary. Then you multiply about 15% above that to get their total expense to you. This is your gross expense to them. You're not considering, your rent or any of the costs of the support team. So you get that gross income by subtracting the total income minus their expense, which is about $100,000 for most of us. For most of us, it'll be between 90 and 120 guaranteed. That number, then you want to look at 10 to 20% of that number as your budget for your bonus. And so for most of us, again, that's going to be somewhere between like $17,000 and $27,000. That's the money we take to our team. And I would say that we roll this out powerfully. So step 4 is rolling it out to the team. I think we have a sit down with our best people. Guys, we're piloting this program. We have put so much time, money, and energy into recruiting. And we still believe in brand. We're still going to do our social media. We're still going to go to universities. We don't stop those actions. Like, we still do that. But we're rolling this out to see how we can invest in our most important asset, which is you. We believe that rock stars are going to hang out with other rock stars, and we believe $1,000 or $2,000 bonus isn't going to move the needle for you because it wouldn't do it for me. So how much money do you think would move the needle? And kind of let them have a discussion. I don't know, 5,000, 7,000. Let them. They're not going to go to 20 grand. They would think that's insane. And just go, we are going to pay you 20,000, whatever that number is, $20,000 when you bring another rock star in. And you might be wondering, where's this money coming from? Well, that concerned me too, because it's not like we've got $20,000 sitting around, but here's what we know is that, Mike, you're a rock star. If you found another Mike, the time it would take for us to normally find someone like him is going to be 3 to 4 times the cost and length. We're going to make that money up by Mike coming in here, hopefully shortly, like as soon as you can bring him on. And by the time he's productive, there will be extra money in our business that new therapist is generating that we're going to give to you for finding them. I'm glad I said that out loud because I think that's a really important thing for the team to see is how that connects. Because they're bringing, and by the way, this is our way of like finding another way for you to make more money. We are trying to find a way to grow you. This is our commitment to you. And we realize we can kill multiple birds with one stone. We can find better people through the great people we already have and use that improved profitability to give you the money we would have given to recruiters or wasted time not being profitable. All that, we're going to give that to you as an energy boost. How would you guys like a 30 to 40% bump in your income this year? Here's the only thing, guys. It's not paid out all at once, but we also didn't want to drag it out. We want you to feel it as close together as possible. So we're going to do it where you get half of that up front. So 10 grand the day they start, 10 grand in cash in your pocket. I'm going to write you a check. We're going to present it in a team meeting. Mike found Sharon, $10,000 check, whatever. Then you're going to get half of the remaining amount, 5,000 3 months later, and half that, and the last 5,000 you get at 6 months. So you're getting it all together as quickly as we can do that. Yeah.
Wait, repeat that last two sentences.
Sorry, I don't know what I just said.
You're talking fast. Step 2 is pay another 5 in 3 months. What
yeah, the payout. My recommended sequence on this. And I realize this is just my opinion. Yeah. I like 50% on their day that person starts.
Got it. I missed
$10,000, and I'm going to PR the crap out of that. I am going to have that person stand up, make everyone cheer.
Giant check. You want one of those big checks?
Yes, seriously, I would totally do that.
I'm visualizing.
You like make it you're spending the money. Why not make a big freaking deal out of it?
Have like a party around it. Yeah, totally. Yep.
And you could even do fun little variations of this where it's like, we'll give you $20,000, 10,000 up front, 5,000 after 90 days and 5,000 after they hit 6 months. Or we'll give you 10,000 up front, 5,000 after 90 days, and then a week paid trip to Hawaii for you and your wife. That kind of like you could mix and match these things to see what gets better traction. But then, step 5 is the person starts and you celebrate it. Look, worst case scenario, it doesn't work. And like someone brings on a trashy person, sorry, that was wrong. They bring on a poorly aligned fit, a trashy person. Silly Will.
Garbage.
All people are special and children of God. So anyway, they bring in someone who's a poor fit. Then in the time it takes that person, look, you're still interviewing the person. You're still valid. You're not going to hire a train wreck. You know what I mean? Like if this person comes on and they're super special, I'm making Hurry laugh. If you're bringing them on and you're still going to validate them, it's like, well, he dropped the F-bomb in the interview, so we didn't hire him. I'm sorry. But like but your rock stars aren't going to, here's the thing. It's built-in quality assurance. They're finding people and they're going to think, do I want to work with this person? Or do you think they're excited to be like, oh, I get to work with this person and make 20 grand. That's what's going to light them up. It's like, you get to pick the rock star. Now they still have to go through our vetting process, but we're betting that if you're excited about them, that they're probably gonna be way better than us finding someone cold that we're meeting for the first time. Ari.
This is just a technical question. Can we give them that money as cash, or does it need to go through payroll and taxes and all that?
CPA would say that.
Yeah, your CPA is going to say do that for sure.
Okay. That's what I figured. I was just making sure. So we give them the $10,000 check, the big check, but then we say taxes.
Gross income.
This is gross income before taxes.
Don't say a thing. It's just like their paycheck. But hey, I sidetracked you again. Well, I still didn't get step 2 because I sidetracked you. Like what is the suggested payout for the additional $10,000 you now owe them?
5,000 at 90 days, 5,000 at 90 days.
Okay. Sorry. That's what I wanted.
And then 5,000 at 6 months. Okay, I believe awesome. Alex had half up front, half at 90. And I think I do like the idea of like just it's a small pivot. I don't think that moves the needle very much for them at all. Yep. If I knew I was getting 20 grand over 6 months and 10 up front, I don't think 6 months feels like a long time. I feel like that feels, cool. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And by the way, because it's a healthcare insurance-based practice for most of us, that's the reasoning. It's like, yeah, when they start, it's going to take them 30 days to ramp up, and then it takes us 30 days to make the money. So we're still front loading it as much as we can afford to, but by the time they actually start making revenue, you're basically getting all of their revenue in their first 2 months of business of working for you. So it's a really fun idea. It's just different. And that's what we do here. We pilot different ideas. We talked about this whole overseas thing. I still talk to lawyers, by the way, from time to time. I met a guy 2 weeks ago, who specializes in doing that for healthcare companies. And I walked him through the physical therapy thing, and we got to the same dead end. of like the amount of money and time it's going to take just to get someone to Hawaii to even pass the boards is like the barrier. So I think this is a little bit more exciting because it's growth mindset, but it's like, again, it checks a couple of really big boxes. If I was an employee and I got to be called the hero for finding someone who's already someone I love that I get to work with, and it increases my salary for that year by 30 to 40%. I don't know if anyone can even compete with that crap, man. Like that's insanity. We have to do a good job on our end of like spelling it out for them so they don't, you have to like, look what you did. You're a hero. You just increased your salary by 38%. We celebrated you on stage with a check that I would recommend or that you still write the check and, make it big if you can, but then just tell your CPA on the back end and let him or her kind of go through it and figure that out. Because they want you to go through payroll because of all these reasons, but you can backtrack that stuff too, Anyway,
No, I was just going to say, like, if I was that employee, right, and I worked in that company and I did that 1 year, I would try and replicate that as many years as possible.
oh my gosh.
I'm just
Absolutely.
saying.
I would say this too, like that would be fun. It's like once we get to a certain level of profitability, you can start stacking these in a fun way. If you find a third person and the other two people are still on the team, we're going to do the same $20,000 bonus and a 3-day pass to Disney for your family. Like there's just ways, because then it's like no brainer. If one person can prove they can bring people on and they stay on, are you really upset about the additional $3,000 at that point? Like there's so many fun ways to make it just like so exciting that they feel stupid not doing it for us. Yeah, or we.
So you said something incredibly important, and I think this is something that would be worth having a conversation about at some point, whether the team here agrees or not, is addressing how our mindsets are limiting our ability to do the great work that we're capable of. So you talked about thinking in abundance, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I read an entire post this morning that was so flippin' depressing um, about just the ROI with uh, you know, PTs coming into our field.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, I'm like, I don't know why I thought I could make a business. Like it was just like a super duper duper downer. And then this is like followed up with coming onto this call and you're like, we can rock this world. And I'm just like, I think that so much of what you're talking about is mindset shift. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of noise for us as owners. And I think that that's what's keeping us from doing the great work. And like, you've got this guy who's, kicking it, knocking it out of the park in pediatrics. And then, Joe and I know Christy and Lori too, like we've all been like tearing our hair out with trying to, and we're all incredible owners. So it's like, what is it what's our brain holding us back from? And I love this. I love this example because I think it's huge because
Yeah.
it's a shift. And that's what has to happen is we all have to shift.
I love that. That couldn't be better said. I do want to correct one thing though, which is that I think there was kind of an acknowledgement of like, hey, we're not thinking big. You guys are the big thinkers. Like, I think what happens is there's an organic comparison of stories that I share, like this pediatric guy that I'm using as a demo, not as a comparison. And the demo is what's possible, but it's not about that because what you guys are doing by being here on a Wednesday morning for the group call is a reflection of how you think differently, how you guys have been successful or REIT. I mean, you're expanding in multiple locations, you're growing, you've got all these, you have so many successful things. Joe, he feels bad because he's had a little attrition, but he's running a 20% margin and he's still not working.
I was.
Well, we'll find
Not
out.
anymore.
Yeah.
Looking at 0 at best right now, but
Yes, but you're in business and successful at that. Remember, guys, if anyone asks you how business is going and you're in business, you say it's going great because you're in business in the most challenging, objectively in healthcare and maybe all industries of, well, I bet the yellow pages is a harder business at this point, but like in healthcare, you guys are in the hardest niche of all of these different niches. But here's what's powerful about it is that you don't even realize it because you're like Atlas pushing against the rock or whatever. You're getting so strong. So I think I think that's a whole different day for us to talk about growth mindset. And we can all share how we get into growth mindsets in our own shares. I think that'd be great. I just want to quickly download a couple of observations on that, which is that when we are just really measuring our own progress, that's how we stay in it. This isn't me. This is Benjamin Hardy from Gap in the Gain. When we consistently every day, they've done this in studies, jot down our wins for the day at the end of the day. We program our subconscious to go into growth mindset. We subconsciously like simmer in whatever our last thing is that we see, which for me is usually some sort of TikTok of someone getting hit in the privates. But if what we did instead was put down our wins for the day, then our subconscious programs that, and then we wake up thinking and seeing things a little bit differently. The challenge is that you guys are still in this like period of business where there's a lot of plates spinning and you don't have that tilting point hit yet to where you have that openings freedom, but all of you are right there. And how do I know? Because you're on the call. The vast majority of our $40 billion industry is single location mom paws that are literally treating full time. That's 50% of the $40 billion industry of physical therapy. So if you're listening to podcasts and you're going to coaching groups and you're spending time going to events, that's why those things are so important, right? So as you guys are doing that, just remember, it's less about like becoming something you're not and recognizing that you're already there and just not giving up. Because all it takes is all you need is that one tipping point for you guys. And then all of a sudden it'll be hard for you to not be in the growth mindset because you'll have all this space and money. So we'll talk about that, but that'd be a really fun meeting next time is for all of us to talk about what do we do to get into growth mindset? What are some of the like limiting beliefs that we have about our businesses? And we could just share those. And I think a fun discussion on that would be transformative. Joe.
I just thought I'd add something, and I hope this is beneficial to someone besides me. There's only like 5 of us on this call, but again, further breaking down that, like, even if that PT only stays for 30 days, and if they do 5 visits a day, you would make your gross up, minus the expense you could look at the credentialing costs and that garbage if you had any, but like literally they're going to do a visit every other slot for a month, even if they're not working out probably. And then it's going to be like, okay, you didn't work out. But literally, if they did 5 visits a day, the math in my practice would say I would make up for the gross that I just paid out that initial 10 to that therapist who got them. So it's almost like you can't lose. You really can't lose on that if you think of it that, unless they like walk in and work a day and quit, and then you're still paying what are the odds of that happening? But anyway, that's just an aside.
Worst case scenario, you've invested in your top people who are not going to go anywhere. Like that money.
They got 10 grand. They're happy. They're like, I'll get another one that'll stay. So yeah, that's
an insurance policy that the person that you like the most is going nowhere because you've actually that's another thing I love about this. If you go invest a ton of money in Indeed, someone gets a trip to Hawaii that you don't even know. When you put $10,000 in, because it's not going to work every time, even if it is a good program, there are going to be outliers. We're dealing with people. So there's going to be the occasion of like, someone get hit by a bus. Like that could happen. You're not going to go back and say, hey, I'm sorry that Sharon got hit by a bus. I need my $10,000 back, Mike.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to do that, but Mike's got that bonus. And I mean, you're investing in your people to think differently. Here's the tertiary benefit we haven't mentioned yet. If we're doing this, we're going to tell the team, but then we're making our entire company like all about it. Meaning, hey guys, I've decided that our business on the outside looks like we're all about pain science, for example. We're an outpatient therapy clinic for pain science. Internally, what we are is an incubator to make the best therapists in the world. And it starts with like soft skills. We can train the hard skills, as you guys know. The soft skills, we don't train amazing personalities or work ethic. That is going to come from people you already know, because you wouldn't be the way you are unless you knew people who were like that. So we're investing in you guys. So not only does that person get $20,000, but we're going to help each other all do it. Because if all of you guys found someone, We would just open more locations. We'd have leadership opportunities. And what do we say at Virtual Rockstar or Rockstar Recruiter, guys? The number one reason why people leave is because they don't see a future in the business. So now you're investing in a path for them to see a future in them because they're helping actually build it, which is also our main constraint. So then I would, again, make my company all about that and say, once a month, we're going to get together for an hour over lunch on me, and we're going to talk about how things are going and finding people. Because I want all of you to increase your salary this year by 30. That's the reason why. I want all of you guys to get a 30% raise. You feeling it? A 30% raise this year. So we're going to help each other all get a 30% raise because this is the ultimate win, 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 win. 4 wins. The company wins, you win, the new therapist wins, more patients get helped. Win, 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 win. We all win. This is the identity. And no one in the industry is doing this, guys. That's why we're going to be, we're already the best. We're just not as impactful as we want to be. And you guys deserve to be grown the way that we're investing in it. Joe.
May I ask one more thing around this concept?
Yeah.
Because since I just lost 2 good people, and honestly, my third PT is not the avatar, to put it nicely, personality wise. Great skill set, but he's terrible in every other way. Do you see any downside that I'm not seeing to offering really the 3 PTs that left? Well, one's still there. He's got 2 more weeks left, 3 more weeks. Offering them that bonus. Now they're not part of your organization anymore, yet they found you that person, and they can maybe find you another one.
Mic drop. Joe's thinking big time. Orit.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing, Joe, because I have a PT who's about to leave,
Yeah,
and
like why
she's a
wouldn't you?
flat out rock star.
Right.
And also, she has said to me that she doesn't see this as the end, that she anticipates coming back. So if her outgoing is a $20,000 check
Mm-hmm.
and she's found her replacement and she comes back because she sees that's still part of the game. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's fantastic.
I think we're thinking
Yeah.
in a growth mindset now because why wouldn't we do that and think let's add to that. Let's like improv a scene, right? Improvisers, it's like yes and. So Joe just came out with this new addition to this great idea that Alex Hormozi came up with. I'm just the vessel to communicate it. So Joe now brings it in as like, what if we did this for existing rock stars that used to work for us? Yeah, what else could we do? Well, I'll tell you a benefit. When we reach out to them and say, hey man, I was just wondering if you could use $20,000. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Instead of giving it to a stupid recruiter, I would love to give it to someone that I know, love, and trust. What is that doing to that person? It gives us a reason to reach out to our network, which is always the bigger solution for all of our recruiting, is having a powerful network of people who know, love, and trust us. So we go out there and we say, hey, listen, I believe that rockstars hang out with rockstars. You were one of my favorite people. Oh, thanks, Joe. That means a lot to me. And you're like, yeah, I know. That's why I want to call you. And then that affinity goes up between the two of you. And then it's like, hey, by the way, we're going to have this team call on Wednesday at this time. Would you like to be on it? We're all just going to be sharing best strategies of how we can find people so that everyone can make that $20,000. I mean, maybe that's not a good fit because they're used to being in the company and that might be weird, but what if? And then it's like, then my thought went, well, shoot, if we could do that with past people, who are the connectors that we know? Who are people that just have bigger networks? There's a guy I know at one of the universities who's a good friend of mine. And he's tried to help me when I had my PT practice. If I had a business now and I said, hey, Mike, let's use a different name. Hey, Steve, you're the director of students at AT Stills University. I just was wondering if you could use $20,000. What do you mean? Let me tell you. Well, and maybe there's a conflict of interest there. I'm starting to realize there could be problems with that, with a student and a teacher, but why couldn't that happen if you guys are friends with someone who owns a podcast in physical therapy or someone who's an influencer of sorts? I mean, honestly, if you guys told me that you would give me $20,000, I'm already talking to these students at AT Stills. As much as I'd like to think I'd be thinking of you anyway, it is going to change how I think. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to be like vetting people. And if I find someone, normally I would send them your way, but like there's a different power and intentionality that I would be thinking of. And like, I'm not trying to ask you guys to give me the bonus, but like if 4 of you asked me, I'd be like, okay, $1 million. Every time I'm talking to students, I'm like, who here wants to move to Colorado? I need to see your hands right now. Like, it'd be a totally different tone. So just building on Joe's idea, the idea of how we can leverage, because 20,000 is enough to care. That's enough for me to go, I'm sorry, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then,
You know,
by
why
the
wouldn't you?
way, how do I think about you? What are my thoughts about you? Alex talked about this yesterday. Alex Hormozi said, when we start raising our prices and we start charging more, people start actually recognizing the value, not just arbitrarily, but like if you're barely breaking even, if you raise your prices to have at least some padding in your profit margin, people are going to experience you as a higher quality product. So if you're out there saying we're giving a $20,000 bonus, the employees, whoever we reach out to on the outside, I mean, if I was a PT that used to work for you, I'd be going like, crap, why did I leave? Right? And then it just kind of grows from there. Joe, that was brilliant.
Well, thanks. You know, it's also thinking like, okay, I'm just sitting here thinking, I still keep in touch with like 6, 7 people I graduated PT school with like 23 years ago or whatever. Why wouldn't I tell them? Why wouldn't I tell them what you just said? I'd rather give you 20K than a recruiter. You send me someone, I'll give you 20K. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Why wouldn't you put a post online? Why wouldn't you like,
Yeah,
and
where do you stop with I don't think you want to like hit cold PTs with it. Maybe you do, but you don't want to find someone on LinkedIn and be like, I'll give you 20K if you send me someone. But if you know them, like, and you trust them, then why wouldn't you do that?
Joe, you're hitting upon, listen, the whole point of Rockstar Recruiter, I've said this before, maybe 100 times now. The core solution of Rockstar Recruiter is building a network of people that know, like, and trust us, that are wanting to join our team, that we stay in connection with. That's why we do all the things that we do, from initial outreach to maintaining those relationships. When Adam Robin, who's part of the PT Owners Club, I coached him for a year and a half on recruiting. He was one of the first people on the first day to say recruiting is hard. I was like, okay, let's start there. Let's shift that mindset, right? He now he just hired 7 physical therapists, I think, in the last like 6 months. And I was on a podcast with him. And I was like, all right, man, I didn't want to like bring up that I coached him because I didn't want to have that kind of feeling that that we weren't equals. But I just said, how'd you do it? He goes, well, I have this large network of people. I just, as soon as 2 people quit, I sit around and I text everyone that I'm already in touch with all the time, said, hey, I've got 2 openings. Do you know somebody who's looking for it? And he said he texted like dozens of people that he's already in touch with. And not only did he fill those 2 slots, but he hired 5 more. So the power, so that's the core impact. What this one tactic is helping us see is how exciting it would be to reach out and share it with somebody, because it doesn't feel like an ask at that point. And by the way, the incentive is actually pushing the right behavior, because you're not saying, hey, I'm going to give $20,000 to the first person who joins. That feels like a sale and an ask. That's a totally different part of the brain. The proven method of getting a referral is, do you know someone who's looking for this great opportunity? No one's going to feel threatened by that, but there's no motivation for them to really try until you add a $20,000 tag to it. Then it's like, and then and again, it's kind of how you bring it up. If you're close to the person, like Joe, you said people you know in your industry, like if you're good friends to people in your group, you, the more personal you make it, the more successful it is. Hey, Sharon, I just need to talk to you for 5 minutes on the phone. Sharon, hey, listen, I have this new crazy incentive, and I thought of you as one of the first people I just wanted to share it with, because I can't do this all day long with everybody. You create some scarcity to it. I'm going to give $20,000 to the next rock star in my closest of networks. I'm not doing this to cold outreach. I'm doing this for people I know, love, and trust. And I love and trust you, by the way. If you know anyone who's looking for a job, I end up hiring, I'll give you $20,000. Joe, how can you afford it? Well, I don't know how I can afford not to, which, by the way, is the actual answer to this question. I don't know how I can afford not to do this. And then you put that out there, and just, it gives you a reason. And by the way, worst case scenario, they don't think of anyone, but they're like, whoa, number one, Joe cares and likes me. It's a reason to reach out to them. Number two, they think more of you because you're out there doing something no one else is doing. And Joe must be killing it because he's willing to pay 20 grand. I think more of Joe. And then, yeah, that's the worst case scenario. That's the worst case by reaching out to people. So it makes it exciting to reach out because you're doing them a favor. You're building your brand. You're serving. It's cool. Yeah, this was a good idea. I thought about bringing it after I heard it, but I had no idea how great it would be after this group took a good idea and made it awesome. That's growth mindset in action is how you guys just chewed on it. And even though Lori and Christy haven't said much, their energy has absolutely shaped this for sure. Absolutely. Well, guys, that was a quick call. I didn't ask how anyone's doing or what they're working on. We've got 10 minutes. I think for the last few minutes, I just want to say this. Joe, since he hasn't been on the call, I have been working behind the scenes on the evolution of Rockstar Recruiter. So we are pivoting Rockstar Recruiter into something new. I'm spending a lot of time on that today. I don't know when I'm going to release it. It's not top priority for me to reshape this. I'm just not going to stop doing these calls until it's done. And then I am going to pivot this into something so amazing. I'm not exaggerating. I wish I could share this with you guys, but I'll put it like this. The acquisition.com team is helping me build this next version of Rockstar Recruiter out. And the reason we're going to still do this, I will make some money on it, but you'll be shocked at what I'm going to, anyway, you're just going to laugh and go, well, how is he going to make money? There will be, I'm turning this into an entry level point for people. I am going to be scaling it up. Joe, everyone else knows this. I am going to be scaling it up. I don't know what that's going to look totally, but I have help on what that's going to be. But we are going to create more and more value for you guys. It's all going to be about like providing more networking, going to be more connected to like information and updated tactics like we talked about today. It's going to be all these things. And then it's going to grow from there. So I want this to be kind of my service. And then I will tell you, Joe, we are going to be using parts of these recordings as material for my social media and so on. So obviously, like we are going to edit anything out that is personal, like anything you said about your team or mentioning her money and that kind of stuff. Like we wouldn't have those things in there. But that's part of the reason I can still do this is that my brand, as it grows, we just hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Hooray. Like as we're growing that brand, it's going to be, this is why it's useful for me is because I can talk at a camera or I can work with people I love. And honestly, you guys make me better than I really am. And so I love that. And by the way, and you pointed this out last time, for those, and I'm not opening this call for everybody. The calls are going to be different. The calls, I'm keeping you guys in that innermost circle because you've been with me before. But you guys, we're going to edit this material and give it to you for your brand. So like Joe's whole spiel, like, why wouldn't I reach out to other people and those kinds of things? Like we could create a little short video that he could post on his social media and talk about like, so as we work together, we're going to grow each other's brands, which will help recruiting on a big scale and all that. So I'll let you guys know what that is down the road, but that is it on the updates. Any questions on that, Joe?
Yeah, I am super curious to know more because yeah, again, I haven't been on a call in months and I know you said there was things coming. And so
Yeah.
I guess I don't do good with suspense. So I guess,
It's only
if,
going to be a value add. It's
if
only
you
going to make
can,
things better.
if you can divulge details, as it goes, I'd appreciate it. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to know where, yeah, what, what I could plan for using essentially and how I can, you know,
Yes. So a couple of things. Actually, I am going to share screen and give you guys a little bit more because I realize I can.
I mean, I'm not saying you had to do it now. I'm just saying it
No, I
would be
want to. We've
nice
got
in the
like
near
5 minutes.
future for me to know, like, well, what are we talking about? You
I've
know?
got so much going on my end. Like if I can like get a little bit more information to you guys, the better. Cause like the only group I have to spend time really communicating this to existingly are the people on this call and the few who aren't, who typically are. I haven't been promoting this program for 2 years because of Virtual Rockstar's incredible growth. So for us, here's a couple of things. The first is that we are going to be way more school focused. So school is that online program that I believe you're all in, but I haven't done much with for a long time. Right now it's called Free You Up. It might keep the same name. It might change the name. Right now we kind of put this as like, oh, let's just do a school program. Alex Hormozi and another guy founded school. I am getting personally trained on how to use school in a way that's way more useful. And I am a part of a school group called the Acquisition Scale Advisory Group. This is a very small group of people. I'm the smallest guy in the room. Most of those people have companies above 30 million. So we are in there with the founders of school, learning how to use this to create value for you guys. I'm in it every day for at least an hour. But essentially what we're going to be doing is this is going to be, think of this as like Thinkific, where we had the course, plus the most intimate Facebook group, plus a catch-all for everything we're going to do on steroids. So we are going to start posting like differently, and it's going to be contribution based. You guys are going to contribute as well, some good ideas. There'll be rewards. There's a leaderboard. So as you guys level up, there'll be unlocks for other courses, other freebies, other informations that you can get access to that are going to make you want to keep sharing. And then as people keep sharing, the value of the group keeps going up. We are going to centralize everything on this calendar. Every call from Rockstar Recruiter, every call, every event we do for Rockstar Summit, anything we do is going to be linked. There will be buttons here you can click and open up the link. So you never have to worry about like, where is it? You can click a button, add it to your calendar. So that's great if you want to stick with that, but there's always this central place. It's not an email once a week. It's going to be all here for you. And then in the classroom is where we are really excited. This is where we're going to be creating all sorts of really fun content. Some of it will be paid. Some of it will be free. Some of it will depend on where you are in the business, in this growth. Because again, my vision for the community is to get from 131 into the thousands. Like I want this to be tens of thousands. And there's ways to control it to where it's not just a bunch of crap in here. Like you have to earn the ability to even post. Like there's some things there, but then like for you guys, we're going to have Rockstar Recruiter in here. There's going to be other new things we're going to add into here that other people are going to have to pay for. And so that's kind of the whole like general outline of it. But there's a lot more I'm not sharing about it in terms of what this is going to be. But I will say that we're going to have the big thing, Joe, is we're going to have the calls every 2 weeks as currently constituted. We're going to have everything kind of centralized into school, but we're going to be continue to add value to where this becomes a very special thing. So school will be where everyone meets, but there'll be sections of school where there'll be groups of elite connections and things that we're going to build into that. And you guys are always going to be just in whatever I'm doing. So that's it. I'll give you more details as we go, but we're currently building that out. It's going to take me at least another month or so. Guys, I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for a wonderful time. We'll see you at our next call. I think it's the second week of September. It's the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month. Yeah, Orit.
I will not be at that one.
Actually, that's a really good point. With my crazy schedule, I need to see if I have any conflicts. I do have a conflict. I have a Raintree conference on the 24th of September. So Orit, if you're in town, if you wouldn't mind running that, that'd be great. Otherwise,
the 24th should be fine. I just won't be at the 10th.
Perfect. And honestly, why don't we save the 24th to talk about growth mindset? We'll see. We'll talk. We'll figure it out. I don't want to.
We're still on for the 10th. Are we saying?
Yeah, the next month, the 2nd and 4th land on the 10th and 24th.
Got it.
All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah, thanks.